What is up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Fledivicarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today I have a review of Anarkhon and their new album Phantasmagorical Personification of the Death Temple via Debemur Morti Productions. And hey, if you'd like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Anarkhon is an old-school death metal band based out of São Paulo, Brazil, and has been around since roughly 2002, dropping 3 other albums along the way, including 2006's Obesidade Morbida, 2009's Into The Autopsy, and 2013's Welcome to the Gore Show. This fourth outing, now on the more Lovecraftian side of the spectrum, was actually released in 2020 and flew under my radar completely, but now that Debemur Morti is releasing it on vinyl, it seemed like the perfect time to correct course. The record opens with the long, atmospheric intro of appropriately titled Dimensional Incantation. This one is spoken word like a satanic sermon over eerie ambient noise, occasionally broken up by disturbing otherworldly snarls. At almost 2 minutes, I do kind of wish that this one had been separated out from the rest of the track so I didn't have to listen through it every single time, but even so, it serves as a great atmospheric driving intro to the record. In any case, this abruptly goes straight into reverberating old-school D-beats, blackened tremolos, and deep, imposing death growls. A far cry already from anything from the band's previous efforts. I really like the cool transition around 3 minutes and 22 seconds to the relatively simple but very infectious little guitar hook that really sticks in my brain. It's such a little thing, but I can't say enough of what an impact it can make on helping a band's songs stand out from each other and linger with you long afterwards. Very early on in this record, I was getting abyssal vibes, and Far Beyond Blood and Death was one that really cemented that comparison with its serpent-like snare of riffs, slowly coiling and tightening alongside the death-doomy vocals. Again, there are frequent transitions with changes in pace of the pounding drums and later expanding outwards like entering some dark interdimensional portal. Despite its obvious insidious nature, it beckons you forward like some Lovecraftian Pied Piper. And speaking of Doom, fans of compositions that are on the slower and more atmospheric side will enjoy moments like the massive and appropriately very funeral-like intro of the title track, as well as the utterly transcendent middle portion of Ancient Tomb. But even more so, you'll likely chomp at the bit for Assuming the Grotesque, which once again, like Abyssal, mixes plodding trudges through the impenetrable muck with frequent detours into starkly contrasting aggressive territory, keeping this very dynamic arrangement even more engaging and unpredictable throughout its duration. As always, I don't want to spoil all the best moments of this album. There's just so much to take in here, with every second conjuring such intense and bleak imagery in its dire tones. The final 2 tracks in particular paint a pretty vivid picture with apocalyptic sounds that seem to rend the very fabric of space and time, like so many of Cthulhu's best cohorts. Really, the entire 40 minutes of this album is like one giant spiral into chaos, fanaticism, and ultimately a final embracing of the void. By the end, you'll feel dirty and depressed, but perhaps willing to become one with such emotions. After all, one never truly appreciates the light without the dark. And not to ramble too much on this point, but that was what most resonated with me from this record. Music is so subjective, and the fun of it to me is what you, the listener, take away from it in the end. In this case, it was the reminder of how misunderstood metal can be as a genre. We don't always worship the dark for the sake of its embrace. We do so sometimes as a reminder of how much there is still to appreciate, even when everything seems to be going to hell. I give Phantasmagorical Personification of the Death Temple a 9 for enjoyability. It's not a perfect listen or one with some of the staying power of some of my favorites, but short of that, it's a fantastic listen nonetheless. I give it a 9 for musicianship. This is largely based on the excellent compositional work that once more melds deranged black metal dissonance with strangely infectious melodies and beats in a dense and layered fashion that somehow never gets bogged down by its own weight. And I give it an 8 for innovation. Like I said, if you're familiar with bands like Abyssal, then this is going to be pretty familiar to you, but this definitely represents a pretty big step forwards from their more gore-ridden, brutal death metal roots. So an 8.7 overall and a B+ for Anarkhon and Phantasmagorical Personification of the Death Temple. Get it once more via Debemur Morti Productions. Y'all, thanks as always for watching, and let me know down in the comments what did you think of this album, and stick around, I got plenty more videos coming right after this one, more album reviews, tier lists, interviews with bands on the podcast, you name it, we've got it, so plenty of reasons to subscribe if you have not already. And again, if you enjoyed this album, check out Abyssal, especially their album Anti-Catastasius, if you haven't heard it before. That is my personal favorite. They've got a few other albums, they're all great. You'll probably enjoy stuff like Ulcerate too, that little bit different, but kind of in the same vein. Portal, if you have not yet listened to Portal, then you need to check them out too. They have a ton of great albums. Their latest one, I believe at this point, was Ion, which was good, but I'm partial to the one before that. I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's the blue one with the brain on the cover. Vexavoid. It was Vexavoid. And also Alterage, who I have done a reaction video on recently because they have a new album coming out. It will be their 4th, and yeah, this all falls into kind of what I describe as sort of atmospheric black and death metal, where it's just a very there's technical elements and stuff going on with the musicianship that's pretty impressive, but overall it's more about how massive it sounds. Yeah, good stuff. I could probably honestly do sort of a list on this thing, so if that sounds interesting, let me know. And of course, chat with us on Discord and support on Patreon, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.